Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be doing my March wrap up. So I feel like especially for North America, March was a bit of a crazy month for everyone. I feel like so there was a lot of adjustments going on and all of that. So for me, like I'm very much a homebody, so this is like I'm like living the dream right now. But I know a lot of people have been struggling, so I just want to know I'm thinking about all of you guys out there right now. This is kind of a historic time right now, so kind of stay safe and all that. But nevertheless, despite what was going on in the world, I found like reading was my escape, and I officially got out of my reading slump, which was really good. So I read a total of 4 books. One of them was quite big, so I'm very pleased with that. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So this was the trilogy that put me in a reading slump, and I'm happy I finished it. And after I kind of like had like a little week break from the series, I was able to kind of get back into reading again, and it was the final book in the Sign of Seven trilogy by Nora Roberts, The Pagan Stone. Basically the premise of this story, it follows this sorcerer back in like the 1600s who kind of, or I guess he's like a demon, like cursed the town, and a sorcerer kind of trapped him in a stone, but the demon is released once these 3 boys do a blood pact on that stone, and it kind of goes off from there. This was the concluding book in the trilogy, and I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. Like I didn't hate it, it was just, I don't know, like I've read her Year One trilogy, which I really enjoy, the Cousins of Dire trilogy, which I also really enjoyed. This one was just very formulaic, predictable, and I felt like each book was basically the same thing over again, just with different characters. So I did really enjoy the magic aspect in here, but I just wasn't a fan of the relationships or the characters that much. So not my favorite Nora Roberts trilogy, so I was happy I got this one out of the way because this one was really keeping me in my reading slump. So next, me and my aunt finished The Things We Cannot Say by Kelly Rimmer, which was our book club pick that we've been reading since December. So I actually read ahead, don't tell her, just to finish it so I could get it out of the way. But essentially the story kind of has a dual storyline. So we follow Elena, who is growing up in Poland during World War II, and we also follow Alice, who is in present day. Her grandmother is in the hospital and has a stroke, and she's not able to talk. But she communicates through the iPad with like one of the talker apps, and she kind of finds kind of the history and like the mystery of her grandmother's past. And so we kind of jump back between Alice trying to figure out her grandmother's past and then Elena's storyline in World War II. And I really enjoyed this. I really loved Elena's perspective in here, kind of seeing her grow up over the course of the war and just the hard decisions she had to make. I didn't enjoy Alice's storyline as much though. I felt like Alice was really whiny, and she's like, woe is me, and I don't know, she wasn't my favorite character, but nevertheless I still really enjoyed the storyline. I like how the author tied in all of the different storylines at the end, and I really loved the ending and just seeing how everything played out. So it had its like few kind of cons with me, but overall I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So this is a book that me and my friend read for our book club, and we finished it within like a week and a half, and this is like a very dense book, and so I'm very pleased with that. And it was The House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I do have a more in-depth spoiler-free review that I will link up in the cards, but basically the premise of this, it follows a girl named Bryce who's half fae, half human, who lives in Crescent City, which is essentially kind of like a metropolitan city, kind of like in our world with our technology, but there's a mix of fae, human, angels, vampires, like different kind of mythical creatures live in this town. And she is very much the party girl, and her whole life turns upside down when her best friend and like kind of her friends group are completely murdered by a demon, and she kind of like throws her life through a loop. She is then kind of approached 2 years after the fact to kind of, there's been a series of murders taking place at a very similar MO to the ones that her friends murder. So she kind of goes and helps with the investigation and kind of goes off from there. So like every Sarah J. Maas book, I find that there's always some problematic aspect in here, and this one was no different than her other ones in terms of that aspect. I found, like, especially with the relationship between Bryce and Hunt in here, there was so many problematic aspects, and I'm like, that would not fly. Like if I was in that situation, like one character uses kind of sex as like a manipulation tool almost, and I would be like, if someone did that to me, like, I'm like, don't let the door hit you on the way out, basically. But I still really enjoyed kind of the mystery aspect in here. I wasn't the biggest fan of the main characters, Bryce and Hunt. I liked the secondary characters so much more in here, so I hope we get more of them in the second one. But despite some of the things I didn't like about this book, I overall enjoyed the storyline. I liked the mystery aspect in here, and there was enough tying up of the loose ends that it was like a good closure of a first novel, but there was enough like kind of thing throughout you at the end that leaves you interested in what happens in the next one. So I will continue on with this series. It was just a fun run to read with my friend, especially everything that's going on with the world now. It's good to like lose yourself in a book that is so kind of atmospheric and different, which was nice. It took me a while to get over the first 40 pages because it was basically like info dump, and I was like, what the heck is going on? But once you get kind of past that hurdle, it's kind of smooth sailing, just a regular fantasy book after that. So if you're struggling, just so you know, like I feel like that's been the common theme that I've read in the reviews, so don't you worry. And lastly, I ended up picking up A Cold Trail by Robert Dugoni, and this is the 7th book in the Tracy Crosswhite series. And basically the premise of this, it follows Tracy back in her hometown in Cedar Grove, and she ends up kind of getting involved in this cold case that happened around the time her sister disappeared. And so it follows a girl named Heather who was found murdered at like basically off the side of the highway, and everyone assumed that it was the killer who killed Tracy's sister was the one involved, because Tracy's sister disappeared a couple months after this, so they always assumed that guy was involved in it. But there's been kind of things popping up and some coincidences that make it seem like the killer is still out there, and it kind of goes off from there. I really love how this series really focuses on the kind of cold cases. It really sets it apart from a lot of the other crime series that kind of deal with the present, like current murders, and I like how this one really does a good focus on the ones that are kind of cold cases and have been cold for quite a long time. So I really like this. I loved how we got to see Tracy in this new chapter of her life. I won't say what it is if you're reading this, but I love seeing how she like dealt with that and all that. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really love this series, and yeah, I flew through this. I read it very, very quickly. So yeah, like I said, if you're looking for a good crime series, this is a good one to marathon right now. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books you read this month and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.